All right, so welcome everyone to this special webcast. Today we're starting a programme of conversations where we explore women's menstrual health. With recent issue of the British Standards publications BS 30416, which is a guide on menstruation, menstrual health and menopause in the workplace, we wanted to take the opportunity to discuss some of the aspects of this. Focusing on menopause, there are different menopause transitions that happen at different stages in a woman's life. And although menopause typically occurs between the ages of 45 and 55, it's important to acknowledge that some women may encounter early menopause. And early menopause occurring before the age of 40 can be caused by conditions such as premature ovarian insufficiency or POI. It's essential for organisations to be aware of these variations to support their employees' health and well-being effectively. So today we're joined by Charlie Newman, who'll be sharing her experience of premature ovarian insufficiency. Charlie's an MA student in socially engaged practice at the University of Portsmouth and was diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency in December 2020 when she was 20 years old. Hi Charlie, so just briefly tell us what POI is.
So POI is basically when a woman's ovaries stop working normally before the age of 40, and it creates an early onset menopause. And sometimes your periods can stop. Mine has, but sometimes you can still have periods and still ovulate. Yeah.
Okay. So what menstrual changes did you notice at first?
So I was on the pill, and I was on it from when I was 16, and then I came off the pill, and then I stopped having periods for around 6 months, and the doctors kept on telling me it was stress, it was this and that. And then it turns out, so I ended up going to the doctors and they diagnosed me with POI. So,
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay. So there must have been some hormonal imbalances. Tell us a little bit about what that felt like.
So when people were telling me it was stress and it was this and that, obviously I felt my hormones go all over the place. I was having brain fog, hot flushes, and depression, all sorts. And they ended up checking my FSH levels, which is your follicle stimulating hormone. And It basically is where your brain releases this hormone to tell your ovaries to release an egg each month. And mine was at 99%, and a normal kind of adult woman would be between 1 and 9. So as you can tell, mine was quite high.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And with POI, it should be around 30, anywhere around 30. So yeah.
Oh, because that's really extreme then. That's really extreme.
Yeah.
So you talked about brain fog, depression, and hot sweats. What other symptoms did you experience?
So I had like heart palpitations, weight gain, low sex drive, vaginal dryness. I had breast tenderness, but the main ones was definitely a hot flush and brain fog. I also have ADHD, so it really does not help having the brain fog there.
No, it doesn't. And I think sometimes the two things, there's an intersection between ADHD and menopause. I think there are lots of things that will show up at the same time, and you never know when you're trying to get a diagnosis whether it's one thing or another.
Yeah.
How was your sleep been?
So before I used to sleep like a log. Now, and when I started getting the symptoms, my sleep was on and off. I have to have the window open. I have to wear loose pajamas. You can actually get some from Primark, actually, menopause pajamas. And I mean, at first my sleep was very much, I needed to just wake up every hour and just cool myself down, make sure I had a glass of water. But now I've kind of gotten used to it, I guess. But yeah, no, my sleep for the first how many months was a bit not the best, let's just say.
I suppose I could say for the people watching us, that for context, that I'm at the other end of this spectrum. I'm a person having menopause at exactly the right age. I'm 52 years old, and I'm somewhere between perimenopause and postmenopause. I can never tell from one day to the next.
Yeah.
But sleep disturbance has been a massive issue for me, and it just leaks into every part of your life. And like you, I was a champion sleeper prior to having perimenopause. But yeah, exactly the same symptoms. You and I have exactly the same symptoms. But I guess I'm experiencing mine when I should be experiencing them. If should be is the right way of putting it. At the regular age. All right, thank you for that. I suppose there's questions that are not easy for you to answer as a 23-year-old, but has this given you concerns about your fertility?
I mean, yeah, so at the beginning, I had a 0.5% chance of having children. Obviously, I had to have different conversations with my partner about that. But recently, because I was on and off my hormones and all that jazz, I've recently got told I can't have children. Obviously, when getting told you had that 0.5% chance, you would have some hope. But yeah, so it's kind of given me other options. I can do egg donation. I don't have to have children if I don't want to.
Of course.
And, also I can do adoption. So I've had to have obviously difficult conversations with a lot of people around that and talk to the hospital about it. So yeah.
And I'm just thinking, as we talk about it, that we under sort of the women's health banner, we could do a conversation with other people about fertility in various parts of their life and how that's been for them. Okay, well, thank you for that. So what do we know about what causes POI?
So around 90% of women, including myself, will never know. We don't know, and that can cause a lot of mental strain. And it's like a grief. It's a grief. That's what it's described as. It's a grief of yourself, your life before, and a grief of the diagnosis. So a lot of women don't know, and it's a lot. There's also autoimmune diseases, which is around 5% of people find out through that. Genetics, infections, and surgery and treatment. So when people go for like hysterectomies, sorry, I couldn't say that word, and stuff like that. So yeah, there's quite a big list, but a lot of people only find out, 90% of women only find out.
That's huge, isn't it? Just with no known cause.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is probably the biggest answer to the smallest question, but let's talk about the complexity of your diagnosis, how you got diagnosed, and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. Definitely, it was around, the height of COVID in 2020. So I was getting all these symptoms through uni, through first year of uni, sorry. And, my period stopped. I was getting told, oh, it was just stress and all this stuff. And I went back home, and I was telling my mum, like, I don't know what this is. What is going on? And I go on to, I think it was on Good Morning Britain. There's this woman, her name's Life of POI. She's on Instagram. And she started talking about all these symptoms about POI. And I turned to my mum and I was like, oh my God, that is what I've got. Like that, there are all my symptoms. It was like the first time I'd ever felt kind of seen. So I immediately called the doctors up and I was like, look, I think I've got this. I need to book this appointment. It took them months, let's just say, obviously because of COVID and that lot and kind of the crisis there. So it took them months, and then I get called on the phone by the doctor, and he's gone, yeah, your FSH levels is 99%, and you've got POI. I asked him to talk about it further. He told me to book another appointment. So there was kind of that thing that I had to do my own research, research my own diagnosis. And then I was kind of left to it. I never got any support. I went through a massive grief, and I'm still going through it. And yeah, I never got really any support with that. I'm constantly fighting for my own HRT, obviously the national shortage as well. And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot on my mental health, and especially going through uni. I had to speak to them about it. And they were very supportive, but at the same time, I was like forgetting things, forgetting assignments, forgetting whatnot. So it was a lot going through it at 23 and having to have difficult conversations and talk about my future, even though I'm not really I shouldn't be planning my future really too much now.
Yeah, I imagine lots of 23-year-olds haven't given a thought to some of what future looks like, and then you're having to think about some quite serious sort of family stuff, and I don't know, having to explain to other people what it is that's different about you, and what that might mean for those around you.
Yeah, and especially, oh, sorry, I was going to say, especially with me going through it at well, now I'm 23, but going through it at 20, none of my friends had like heard of POI, or for my thesis, actually, for my BA, I spoke about how in school you learn about like sex education, learn about like, you know, having kids and all this stuff, but you never learn on the other end. And I think there should be something in place that you learn about the menopause, you learn about all that stuff later on, you know, when you should traditionally get it on in life. We learn about all the symptoms.
Yeah. I think, you know, again, for a mature woman's menopause experience, I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it. I didn't know what it would feel like. And I think I was raised by a generation who didn't talk about it. So, and that's true in all sorts of cases. It's not just menopause that women of my parents' generation didn't talk about. So many things that we talk more freely about now. But yeah, I guess as well at 20, if you're 20 and your parents, you might not have even reached the age where they're starting to suffer from regular menopause and perimenopause. So you couldn't even say, oh, those symptoms that I'm hearing Davina McCall talk about are going on in my house. That feels familiar. So I can't possibly be menopausal. I'm 20, so it must be something else. So I'm just depressed.
I mean,
so much stuff to think about in all of that.
And it was nice because at the time my mum was going through menopause as well, so we were kind of going down that route together. And it was really nice to, like, bless my dad though when I was living at home, bless him. But yeah, no, it was really nice to have like my mum help me and guide me through that. As well, at the time, my brother was having a daughter, and me and his wife basically were going to the same clinics. So we're going to the fertility clinics, or getting, well, I was getting like calls from that clinic. And I think there should be made more awareness of that, because I recently went for an osteoporosis scan, because I have osteoporosis. And I was put in the fertility clinic, which could be quite triggering for some people. And especially I was given like a pregnancy letter, of like, could you be pregnant, how, all this stuff like that. And I said to them, I said, this could be really triggering for someone who's going through this. And you would think that they would look at their notes. I also got asked, when I went for my osteo scan, when was your last period? Could you be pregnant? Twice, actually. And I was like, I'm really sorry, I don't like make a fuss, but that's quite triggering, and it could be triggering for other women out there as well. So yeah. I
think going back to menopause in the workplace, the new British Standard does advise companies to make sure that their policies align with other policies. So that might be something for the health service to consider, or health services to consider when they're talking to people, that not everybody actually can be pregnant. When you're asking that question, could you be? And you say no. Oh, why not? Well, I don't really want to get into whether I'm pregnant or not, and what the reasons are. But you're right about being triggering. It's different for everybody, that experience.
Oh, 100%. And especially at the woman's face, when I said, she went, when was your last period? And I think it was like, it was around 2 years that I had the diagnosis. I was like, oh, like how many years ago? Like 2 years ago, something like that. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I've been going through early menopause. That's why I'm coming for my osteoporosis scan. And a lot of women find this, that they go to these appointments, and they have to explain and over explain their diagnosis. But yeah, and especially when you go to a chemist as well. I had this literally yesterday. I was stood there in the line. I was so anxious. I felt like I was going to throw up, really. And I said, oh, I'm here for my HRT, whatever. And the man just kind of looked at me and was like, oh, okay. What are you on? And it's always the same reaction with that kind of thing. You just kind of, people get confused, but because this is why we need to kind of spread awareness of it, especially
Yeah.
to like let people know that, you know, menopause can happen at any age.
It's rare. I suppose you can, in some environments, you can expect that kind of
Yeah,
people
100%.
being a bit surprised or incredulous, and you know, sometimes it's nice to be rare. But yeah, it's interesting that people in the health industry might roll their eyes or raise their eyebrows rather at that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to, for a bit of context again, osteoporosis, for those that don't know, menopausal women lose bone density. And so generally at the age of, in your mid 40s to 50s, you'll be given calcium as to take, because your calcium is diminishing from your bones, and you'll get a bone scan if there's some concerns about that. Now, I would imagine for a 20-year-old woman, that's not even on the agenda.
No.
So yeah, so your osteoporosis was diagnosed after your POI.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Through a bone density scan.
Yeah, so I had a DEXA scan, and yeah, they found out that I had osteoporosis. This was just due to me not kind of getting diagnosed at the time that, well, kind of where I got diagnosed so late. I ended up getting osteoporosis because I wasn't getting the right hormones. And yeah, it was a lot. I remember talking to my mum and being like, how does this scan work? Like, what do I need to do? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And I actually found out I had osteoporosis through a letter that my mum got. I didn't even receive the letter. So there's that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Trying to navigate all these issues.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned brain fog. So again, just for those listening, that that brain fog is how we describe when we can't remember what we were going to say, or when we can't get the words out right. And again, a classic symptom of menopausal women at the regular menopausal age, sort of 45 to 55.
Yeah, and I definitely suffer with that. And literally I'll be I'll be talking to someone and then I'm like, oh, what am I saying? What's going on? Wow. Yeah.
So treatment, what treatment have you had so far? So we talked about sort of management of your case. What treatment have you had, and maybe what side effects could you talk about in that as well?
So I've had HRT treatment, and I was on different HRTs. I was first on the pill one. You get 2 different pills, and you'll take like 2 weeks of the, I believe it's estrogen, then 2 weeks of the progesterone.
Yeah.
And then they found out I was progesterone intolerant, which is a whole thing.
Yeah, how did that present itself?
So I was depressed. I had really bad depression. I had headaches, massive mood swings, and a lot of women find it that they are sick, and dizzy, and that was horrible. But a lot of, like, again, a lot of people don't know that progesterone intolerance is an actual thing. But yeah, that was not nice to go through, to be honest. And I found out that I had that through the Daisy Network. They do a lot of stuff around POI. They're a charity that talk about POI, and they did these weekly meetings, and I learned about that through them. But now, yeah, with HRT, I was on the pill, and then I was on the patches, found out I was allergic to the patches, and then now I'm on Estrogel, which is quite hard to get hold of at the moment, and the progesterone pill, which you insert it vaginally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, estrogen gel has intermittently over the last several years been hard to get hold of, and I think because it's so effective, everybody wants it. And just there was a time when I couldn't get it, and it was there was a national shortage. And what was going on around supporting women with menopause, that was going on in the government, and there were people marching the streets. Yeah, hopefully things will get better, but even now, I'm talking probably a couple of years later, there is a shortage of HRT, which of course only impacts women. Yeah. So yeah, typical. Okay, that's another webinar, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so psychological and emotional support. What psychological and emotional support would you request from a workplace?
If I wanted support from a workplace, I would love for there to be just kind of even just like an open conversation with like women who are going through menopause in the workplace, so they can talk about what's going on, or like have that then like a menopause support mentor there. And I think especially a lot with the workplace in general, I think people need to like kind of educate themselves and maybe have like a little kind of a what's it called? Brain fog. There you go.
Policy, procedure,
Well,
guidance.
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think there should be some sort of meeting where they talk about menopause and learn about it through that way. And especially with POI, learn that it's not just women over 40 or 50, especially, and also have links where you can get like support and learn about that, and flyers, especially in the workplace where you can talk about it, and just have that openness and have them conversations.
Yeah.
And if someone is feeling a bit, low or feeling not the best, have that kind of, and be open towards that, and just be like, hey, it's okay. Like if you need like time and allowing that space, I think that's really important.
I think it's emotional challenge having the diagnosis of POI when you're a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's going to affect people differently. So, but you'll be ruminating on a lot, and you might need a little bit of time to reflect on that. And I think there's nothing better than having a boss who you can say, the things I thought that we were going to cover today, I just don't feel I'm up to it today. I've got brain fog going on. I'm overthinking stuff. Can we do that tomorrow? And today I'll just focus on something that's a bit less sort of mentally taxing for me.
Yeah.
And in the guidance from the British Standards Institute, they talk about flexible work arrangements, understanding, awareness, accommodation for symptoms. But one of the things that they talk about is that managers are made aware, and certainly in some of the larger corporations, they're really embracing this this menopause, looking at menopause and how they can improve the workplace for that. And I guess, how does somebody with POI get seen? That's, workplaces need to think about that as well, that you don't go to your boss as a 23-year-old and say, oh, well, I'm suffering from POI, which is essentially the menopause, and they raise their eyebrows at you.
Yeah.
Here we go again. It's not being seen.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like in a lot of workplaces, I've had to kind of explain and talk about my like symptoms and all that jazz, and osteoporosis, and how I can't like lift heavy things and all that. Yeah, so workplaces and POI is one of those things where you kind of just have to explain it, lay it out on the table. And for me personally, in past, I've just had to hope that they kind of got it in a way. But I hope that these changes and all of that can kind of make it a bit better for people that are going through menopause. 100%.
I think as well, with the advancement of the menopause in the workplace, when you are going into the corporate world, or when you finish university and you're looking for that first job, at least you can explain to somebody that to accommodate you with your POI, they just need to look at their workplace menstruation and perimenopause and menopause procedures, and you'll fall into that category in terms of how they can support you. So that information is out there in the workplace. It's just that POI thing really is a bit challenging, but it is mentioned in the British standards, so hopefully it's becoming more and more used as a term. So tell me anything else that you'd like to talk about right now.
There is a couple of books that I would suggest if anyone's going through POI, or if they haven't been diagnosed and have POI, or just anyone just wants to learn about it really. I've got this book. It's called, I don't know if you can see it, but it's
hold it close to your face, you can see it. Premature Ovarian Insufficiency, Our Guide to Understanding It, and that's by the Daisy Network, and we'll add these onto the end of the webcast, so we'll get them so people know what to look for. And what's that book been able to tell you
It literally has everything under the sun. It has about your own diagnosis. It has stories of partners that are like watching whoever's going through it. And it has the kind of like food, diet, like sex as a conversation, and all of that really. And there's another book as well I'd advise. It's by a woman named Victoria Hardy. She's called @GingeUnhinged on Instagram, and it's My Menopause, My Journal, My Rules. And she's an incredible like artist as well, and it's beautiful. And it has like, you can put all your like medical notes in it. It has all these things, advice, and it has like a little letter that says to the menopause warriors, and it's to the partners, and it's what they can read. And because a lot of
that's fantastic.
yeah, and a lot of the times like it's hard for us to kind of explain to our partners, this is what I'm going through, because they can only understand it so much, right? So it allows that person to like have that time, have that space to read that and really kind of digest that. So that's a really good book as well.
I love that term, menopause warriors.
Yeah.
I'm calling my husband the menopause whisperer, but I might change it to menopause warrior now.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, I don't what is it? I don't have hot flushes, I have free holidays. And sorry, yeah, you carry on.
I was just going to ask about the Daisy Network. So where can people find that?
So it's online. So if you just write @Daisy Network, people, yeah, it's online. It's a £20, I believe now, still £20 yearly subscription, and it has all of the things about POI, teenagers like stories, all sorts on there. And it has loads of links to like fertility clinics and stuff like that on there. So it's a really useful charity.
And if I've just met somebody with POI, or I know somebody, or a young person going through that diagnosis, I can look on there for some free information. Presumably, you don't have to subscribe just to get a general feeling about POI.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
And they do offer free counselling for 6 weeks, which is amazing. Because I remember when I got first diagnosed, I never really had anywhere to turn to or talk to about it. And yeah, no, it's an amazing service that they offer. You just have to sign up, and then you'll be waiting on the waiting list. So yeah, no, it's really.
Tell us a little bit about what you're studying, how you're integrating your POI into your bachelor's, and then lastly into your master's degree.
Yeah, so I use a lot of like the stuff that I go through through like art and songwriting and all that jazz. So with my BA, I wrote a script around POI. It's named Point, and I'm further developing it in my MA. And there was a section of what is it? There's a speed date doctor section, and it was saying about how going to the doctor is a bit like speed dating. You never know until you find the right one. And that was in there. It's very true as well. So I wrote Point, and then now for my master's, I'm still continuing on that script. And I'm created an event on POI in the menopause.
Yes, tell us about the event for POI in the menopause.
Yeah, so it's a free event. It will be in Portsmouth. And it's in Scott's Tap in Keller. There's free food as well. We all love free food, so that's all I'm saying.
And that's taking place this Saturday 29th of July.
Yes. And it will have talks from Victoria actually and myself, a Q&A, and it will get everyone together and learn about the diagnosis and learn about what each other's going through. And especially with my partner, he's able to meet other people as well that's going through it. And it will just be a really, really nice time. And there'll be a lot of information from the Daisy Network as well. And there'll be little badges and t-shirts that'll be there. The badges say, I'm menopausal, open a frickin' window, and then the logo. So yeah, it'll be a really good time.
Brilliant. It sounds like you've done an awful lot of work. Sounds like you've been through a lot as well, Charlie. Anything else you want to say before I wrap it up?
I would say with POI, 1 in 100 women under 40 go through it, 1 in 1,000 women under 30 go through it, and then 1 in 10,000 under 20 go through it. So as you can see, the numbers are there and they're real. And with that, my one piece of advice that I'd give myself is that, I didn't know if you knew this, you can go to the doctors and go get blood tests. And I would just fully advise anyone, and to my younger self, just go to the doctors, get them blood tests and get that checked out, and get it checked out sooner rather than later. Because sometimes you just don't know if you have these diagnoses or not, diagnosis or not. So that's the one piece of advice I'd say to anyone: just go get it checked out. And if you have it, then you're rare, you're there, and you've got this.
That's funny. That's great. Thank you for that. Right. Okay. So everyone, the British Standard is a detailed document, and it is well worth a read. We're just focusing on the policy guidance. It summarises that organisations aiming for a fair and consistent approach to menstrual, perimenopause, and menopausal health should ensure that their policies reflect the British Standards guidance to provide inclusiveness for those impacted. And that obviously includes young women with POI, effective communications, awareness among managers, alignment with overall wellbeing and health strategies, and then inclusive recruitment, training and development programs. By following those recommendations, organisations can create a really supportive environment, promoting inclusivity and wellbeing in employees. So think about your employees that have menstrual, perimenopausal and menopausal health issues, and make sure that you're there for them. And finally, I suppose that a disclaimer that if you suspect you've got premature ovarian insufficiency, and as Charlie's just said, or experiencing symptoms of menopause at a young age, it's crucial that you seek medical attention, get a proper evaluation diagnosis, and an experienced health care provider can conduct the necessary tests and recommend appropriate management options tailored to your specific needs and health considerations. And the reason that you should start this soon is that part actually takes quite a long time. Getting the right medication, finding out that medication doesn't work for you, so there needs to be another and another and another. It can literally take years because you have to give these things a chance. So I think that's been Charlie's experience as well.
Yes.
Yes. As well as mine. So yeah. Okay, let us know if you would like to discuss any other health and wellbeing issues on the webcast. Just get in touch with us.